that, I give the call to the most honourable member for Canberra.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I rise in support of the Future Made in Australia Bill and its omnibus amendments. Deputy Speaker, one of the major policy commitments of the Albanese Labor opposition during the 2022 federal election was to drive a future made in Australia. For too long, Australian manufacturing and Australian industry have been in decline, and under the previous government, they failed to address this trend and unfortunately even made it worse. Who can forget the former Treasurer Joe Hockey in this place daring Ford and Holden, the last remaining Australian car manufacturers, to leave? And that's exactly what they did. The former government left a policy vacuum in this space. They provided no incentives for industry development or value-adding onshore. That changed when the Albanese Labor government was elected, because we know that a diverse economy is a strong economy. And we know that there is so much unrealised potential for Australian industries to thrive. Deputy Speaker, Australian innovations have changed the world. As a country, we are incredibly good at developing ideas, but we are less good at commercialising them. Take photovoltaic solar panels, for instance. This is a homegrown product, but not a homemade one. PV solar panels were invented at the University of New South Wales, but today 99% of solar systems being installed on Aussie roofs are manufactured overseas. This is a technology pioneered here that Australians adopt more than any other nation in the world. Yet we've let the huge economic benefits fall to other nations. This is not a uniquely Australian problem. In the US, the Inflation Reduction Act is seeking to incentivise growth in American solar manufacturing by up to 40%. In 2 years, the Act has driven the creation of 49 new solar manufacturing projects. Here, our government's $1 billion Sunshot Solar program will support domestic production through investment in innovative manufacturing facilities across the PV supply chain. As the Minister for Climate Change and Energy has said, there is a pressing economic need for a local solar industry, and we have an opportunity to build a greater sovereign capability. This bill will ensure that Australia maximises the economic and industrial benefits of the global transition to net zero. It will secure our place in a changing global economic and strategic landscape. It will build a stronger, more diversified and more resilient economy powered by renewable energy. It will create secure, well-paid jobs and encourage and facilitate the private sector investment required to make Australia an indispensable part of the global net zero economy, a renewable energy superpower. This is a long-term policy for the better future that this nation deserves. Fundamentally, this bill is about taking advantage of both our comparative advantages in renewable energy and our traditional strengths in resources and manufacturing to build new opportunities. Opportunities such as critical minerals processing, green metals, clean energy technologies and low-carbon liquid fuels. Deputy Speaker, Australia is an exceptionally smart nation. Our minds lead the world, whether it be Wi-Fi, the cochlear ear, the Hills hoist or aircraft black boxes. We really do punch above our weight. Only on Monday, to mark the beginning of Science Week, the Minister for Science and I had the opportunity to visit a remarkable Canberra startup, Samsara Eco, based at the ANU here in my electorate. Founded by PhD candidates Vanessa Vong-Suthi and Matt Spence, Samsara Eco is changing the way the world thinks about recycling. Globally, there are around 10 billion tonnes of plastic waste sitting in landfill or polluting the environment, but only 9% of this waste has been recyclable previously. Samsara Eco has developed an enzyme which, when applied to polymers, breaks it down to its original monomer form, which means that they have the capability for every plastic in the world to be able to be recycled using this technology and to be recycled infinitely. This is a real game changer. It is genuinely groundbreaking technology developed right here in Australia, right here in Canberra. Samsara Eco have already partnered with Woolworths and this year, in partnership with Lululemon, launched the first commercially available apparel made from the fully recycled polyester. Samsara Eco is an incredible example of what this nation's best and brightest can achieve.
Thank you, brother.
This bill is about enabling more Australians to achieve their potential and help our nation become a renewable energy superpower. And we're doing this because our government has a vision for the nation, a vision for a better future. It is extremely disappointing to me that those opposite can't embrace this vision. Once again, they oppose good legislation that will make Australia better for the sole purpose of saying no. They would prefer to keep Australia in the dark ages. Instead of embracing new technologies like renewables, they want to take Australia back to the past with the technology of the 1950s, nuclear. We have a different vision, a vision for the future, an ambitious vision, one in which Australian industries are able to reach their full potential, supported by a nation that not only cheers them on, but provides the framework for their success. This bill has three components. First, it embeds the government's national interest framework that was announced at the budget to help identify sectors where Australia has a genuine comparative advantage in the net zero economy or an economic security imperative. It establishes a robust sector assessment process to understand and remove barriers to private investment, and it establishes a set of community benefit principles that will make sure relevant future Made in Australia investments create strong returns for local communities, workers and businesses. We aren't alone in implementing a scheme like this. Whether it's the US Inflation Reduction Act or similar policies in the UK, Canada, Korea, Japan and others, the world is seeing the benefits of production tax credits like these, and we can either be left behind or pave our own way for a better future for our economy. The National Interest Framework will help to better align economic incentives with the national interest. Legislating this framework, as we are doing, will provide certainty to the investment community, which is critical to attracting private investment at scale. This legislation codifies the two streams of the framework. The first, the net zero transformation stream, which covers sectors that could have a sustained comparative advantage in a net zero global economy, and where public investment is likely to be needed for the sector to make a significant contribution to emissions reduction at an efficient cost. The second is the economic resilience and security stream, which covers sectors where some level of domestic capability is necessary or efficient way to deliver economic resilience and security, and the private sector will not deliver the necessary investment in the sector in the absence of government support. Sector assessments will be made at the direction of the Treasurer and conducted independently by the Treasury. They will assess whether an area of the economy is aligned with the National Interest Framework and will help inform how government can reduce barriers to investment in priority areas. These assessments are also required to be made public, which brings extra transparency and rigour to government decision-making. The government wants to ensure public investment and the private investment it attracts flows to communities in ways that benefit local workers and businesses. That's why a set of community benefit principles will be applied to future Made in Australia supports identified in this bill. Specifically, we want to ensure that investments promote safe and secure jobs that are well paid and have good conditions, that they develop more skilled and inclusive workforces, including by investing in training and skills development and broadening opportunities for workforce participation, that they engage collaboratively with and achieve positive outcomes for local communities, such as First Nations communities and communities directly affected by the transition to net zero, that they strengthen domestic industrial capabilities, including through stronger local supply chains, and that they demonstrate transparency and compliance in relation to the management of tax affairs, including benefits received under future Made in Australia supports. These principles will be implemented on a program-by-program basis, and the government will consult on how they are best applied and the specific requirements. The bill also establishes future Made in Australia plans as a mechanism that can be used to implement the community benefit principles as required. Further details of what will be required to satisfy the requirements of these plans will be subject to consultation. The bill enables the identification of future Made in Australia supports, which are the government investments that the community benefit principles apply to. The bill identifies two initial supports, the Future Made in Australia Innovation Fund and certain investments referred to government for funding consideration under Export Finance Australia's expanded national interest account. Other Future Made in Australia supports can be added by the Minister under the rules. Deputy Speaker, this is a bill filled to the brim with ambition for the future of this nation. A nation where our scientists are able to create new technologies, like Samsara Echo here in my electorate. Our innovators are able to commercialise those technologies and our workforce manufactures the products right here in Australia. Value adding to our economy, helping our nation become the renewable energy superpower that we know we have the potential to be. We can be more than just a resources-driven economy. Australia is a resilient, diverse, intelligent place. Our people are pioneering and world-leading. And this is a government that has their back, creating policy that will support our industries and encourage them to invest in their businesses here in Australia. This is a world-leading reform for a world-leading nation. As the previous speaker, one of the previous speakers, the member for Macon, was saying, we are one of the only developed countries that no longer develops its own cars. And this is just one example of where our manufacturing industry has been neglected, with costs that may not be immediately apparent. Having that industry here was also important for the skills of the workers that were manufacturing those cars, to having those skills to be applied to other things. As we build the manufacturing industry, it has flow-on effects for the other industries and capabilities. And as I've said, we are a nation that is full of ideas, and we want to back those ideas, the people with those ideas, to take the potential that we have to build a strong economy, that the transition to net zero that we have to have will actually be a great opportunity for Australia, that we will create new jobs, good jobs, well-paid jobs with good conditions and strong futures for Australians to feel secure in. This is a world-leading reform, and it is always Labor governments that have that vision, that are actually looking to the future, that want to implement things that build a positive future. We're focusing on our children and our children's children and what will be the future for them. As our economy takes on one of the greatest, probably the greatest transition that it will ever have to take in transitioning to net zero. And it's one that we know that local businesses, scientists, workers are totally up for. And so we are a government that are backing them in on that. I absolutely support a future made in Australia, and that's why I'm supporting this bill today. It is a game changer for our manufacturing industry at a time where we really need a government that believes in Australian ideas and gets behind them with this important bill that is also designed to ensure transparency and ensure appropriate decision-making around those two streams, around the net zero economy and also where we need to have certain capabilities that will ensure that we are investing in the right industries and the right ideas that will benefit the most from that government investment. And that's why I'm supporting this bill today.